Welcome to Surviving the Dream with your hosts, Casey Arnold
and David Conley.
We're here to talk to people who seem to have their dream job and find out, what did it take? Is it what they imagined? Is it worth it? How do they do it?
Join us as we uncover the secrets of surviving the dream.
We're recording, Dave.
Oh, we are recording. Oh, I didn't realize that we were recording. Wow. The listeners have got an insight into how we are before we record. I thought they needed that. Great. Oh, yeah. I should really look at my computer. Oh, dear. Well, look, I think today, it's all about putting out.
Are you surviving?
Not really. Not at all, actually. I don't know. I'm not sure. I have to pinch myself. I'm going to introduce our guest because he's desperate to get in here. All right. Because, we're always talking about surviving the dream. It's like putting out fires here and there. And then we use that as a metaphor. And we know what happened in LA recently, especially in Altadena and the Palisades. So today we've got a real live firefighter.
Yes.
Now that is a dream worth surviving because that keeps the rest of us going. It's the one and only Phil Williams is with us today. Phil.
Hi, Phil. Thank you for being here.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for being a brave person who chose to do a job like this, because I don't think you would want Dave or I on your side of things.
You've already seen what a disaster I am.
Anybody who's crazy enough to do it.
Is that the first requirement for becoming a fireman?
Yeah, you got to have a couple screws loose and you'd be missing a couple marbles. So.
Oh, maybe I should have a go.
You never know.
So, Phil, I mean, that is like most children when they're asked, I said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I certainly with little boys, it's like, well, I'll either be a policeman, a firefighter, in England we say fire brigade, of course, or a train driver. You've hit one of those three jackpots.
Yeah, I actually got the firefighter by default. I was actually raised by a LAPD policeman. My dad worked for LA for about 32 years.
Wow.
And he was a motor cop. So I grew up wanting to be a policeman. I went to school for it, got my degrees in it. All my jobs were security related, leaning towards being a policeman. And here I go, ended up being a firefighter for the past 24 years.
How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, come on, explain.
I'll tell you. I was going through the Sheriff's Academy, and I was actually getting ready to start the Sheriff's Academy. And I was doing the physical agility test. And I got to the chain link fence climb. I'm standing on a concrete slab. I get ready to take off. I take 2 steps, and I pop my knee.
Oh.
I ended up tearing my patella tendon, separated it from the kneecap.
Ooh.
And that kind of ended in my drive for trying to get on the sheriff's department. The good thing was, as fate would have it, I'd already been through a fire academy that I put myself through. It was just one of those things. I came outside of a grocery store one day. There was a flyer on my car that said, "Come check out Fire Academy." I've been working at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, on security at the time. And I figured, go check it out. I checked it out. I signed up. I started going to the Fire Academy. Next 7 months, I graduated. I was there. But I had asked my boss ahead of time if you put me, if I put myself through the academy, would you find me a spot on the fire department? Because at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, they have security and fire. And he said, not only will I find you a spot, I'll pay for it.
Amazing.
Wow.
So that was a little more motivation to go through the academy.
I think what I'm learning from this is, Casey, we should put leaflets on people's car and say, listen to the podcast. I didn't realize. I normally just tear mine up, but I now have finally met somebody. It works. I didn't know. Your life changed because of someone putting something underneath your windscreen.
That's because we're too distracted by them giving away kittens outside the grocery store to do something real like this. So wait, do you feel like your police training helped you get through the fire academy? I would imagine you'd be a little ahead of the game from some people.
It definitely did, because the training and studying to be, policeman, you have to basically discipline yourself to do some things and not do other things. You have to make sure that your record kind of stays clean, and you have to be, be able to be attentive in class and not be distracted and stay towards one goal. So going through the fire academy was I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was probably better than going through a police academy.
Oh. And what about, so it's a physical job too, though, isn't it? Like what do you do about an injury, or there are just different departments you can be in? I obviously don't know much about being a fireman other than, damn, I'm impressed by all the things you guys do. As I was saying to you before we started this, I always thought firemen did brave things, but once the fires happened and we started seeing like all the multitude of things firemen do, I was like, oh my God, firefighters cover so much territory. How do you do all of that?
There's a lot to do. That's why it requires so much training, and the training is nonstop. Even after you get the job, you're still training because there's so many things that you have to be on top of. You don't have to remember, you don't have to memorize all this stuff, but you do have to know there is a procedure and there's a technique and there are skills for everything that we do.
My image of firefighters are the guys that are sitting around playing cards, having a coffee, and then they suddenly have to go like at a moment's notice. I mean, what is that? Is that the biggest adrenaline rush that a human being could ever have, I presume?
It is, because sometimes you're either sitting watching TV, you're eating, you might be sleeping, kind of nod off a little bit. Next thing you know, we have what's called tones. Tones basically is your wake-up call. And that gets you up, gets you going. And as you're going toward your vehicle, whichever one it may be, the fire truck, the rescue, the ambulance, you're getting the information over the radio that's telling you exactly what the response is. It may be a fire, it may be a person down, it may be a problem in one of our facilities, one of our buildings may have a alert that's going off. You're getting dressed at this time and you're loading up into your vehicle. So by the time you actually get to the call, you kind of know what's going on.
And are you pre-assigned per shift on which vehicle, or is that your whole career? Oh, I'm actually in this vehicle.
Yeah, once we get on shift, the captain determines who's going to be on what vehicle.
But do you rotate? Like sometimes you're rescue, sometimes you're fire, or are you strictly one or the other?
Whatever vehicle he'll put you on for that rotation, you're on there for like the next couple of days.
Gotcha. So you guys all know how to do everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Good Lord. Wow. Because like in England, we have it where we have the fire brigade and then we have somebody else in the ambulance. But you guys can swap around?
Yeah.
Wow.
One week you'll be driving the ambulance and the next week you're probably driving the engine.
Wow. So when the fires happened, like, were even you guys kind of surprised how quickly it spread? Like, you're used to the level of emergency, but even that was like, oh, guys, we're on extra now.
There's always something that can elevate what we call normal. Basically with us, there is no normal. There is no usual call that happens like all the time, every time. Especially when it comes to fire. This was what we called an anomaly event, where you have a fire that breaks out and you have winds that are gusting in excess of 100 miles an hour. That basically puts that fire in a range of being untouchable. You can't do anything with it.
Wow. And when you got that call, did you? I mean, obviously we've all saw it. I live very close to it. Were you having to be up there for nights and days on end?
We actually spent 2 to 3 days at a time at the facility working that fire and making sure that it did not encroach upon the laboratory.
So you were specifically for the laboratory, for JPL?
Yes.
Wow. And did it get near you?
It got close when it got to the maybe the west side of Altadena. Mm-hmm. The closer it got, it was probably right on our border, but it did not encroach the laboratory.
And how did you manage to keep it away? Or was it luck?
They just blew the opposite way.
Yeah. You got a big blow dryer. Yeah.
It was actually the work of a lot of other agencies that were working that fire from the air. So they were using water dropping helicopters and planes that were dropping retardant.
We should probably clarify for people who don't live in Los Angeles. I mean, you brought up the fact that the winds were 80 to 100 miles per hour. And I had people going, oh, well, they couldn't get the plane. Why didn't they get the planes in the air? It was so dangerous that first night to get anything up in the air, I presume.
Yeah, once the winds reach a certain miles per hour, I believe it's maybe 35 or 40 miles per hour, it becomes too dangerous for fixed-wing airplanes to fly. And once the winds increase past maybe 50 miles an hour, helicopters don't have a chance because they'll drop water and they'll be on target when they drop it, but that water will be carried, maybe 100, 200 yards away in a different direction.
Wow.
Is flying those helicopters and learning to do the water drop part of the training? I live near one of the fires where they did that, and whoever those people are that did that, like, definitely saved my neighborhood, and it was miraculous.
The best guys that fly those helicopters are usually guys that have come back from the military who have been in combat.
Oh.
So they know how to fly in the toughest conditions and still stay steady.
Wow. That is a crazy amount of bravery and skills combined. Do they teach you guys how to remain calm under pressure like that? Or is that just another one of those, like, you're pre-wired for that when you come in?
Well, the guys in the helicopters, they know how to stay steady because they have to, they drop a snorkel, which is a long hose that has a coupling on the end of it. And they'll drop that into a big bucket, basically. And they'll pull up their water, sometimes maybe 1,500 gallons. And then they have to hold that helicopter at that point while it's picking up the water. So they're about maybe 10, 15 feet over either, a pool or a lake or a big container that's holding water to pick up that water before they take off. So their skills are unmatched. Mm-hmm. Us that are on the ground, we're freaking out. We're running around all over the place. I'm like, no,
Okay, so you are human.
yeah, we're definitely human, but that's the side that you won't see. You won't see a firefighter freak out, but we do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is there something that, like, you wish people knew, that you wish the layman's knew about what firefighters go through for us?
Well, like you said, we are human. And sometimes people look at us and they go, man, you guys are like superhuman. It's like, no, we are human. We do go through a lot of stress with the job that we have. And sometimes the stress is overwhelming. And we do have those moments where we have to sit down and recollect ourselves.
How do you have something you do to unwind? Sorry, Dave.
No, like, I'm asking the same question.
Yeah. Just probably like anybody else. Once we get off duty, we get home, sit down. You can have a nice cocktail. You could sit down and unwind. Maybe talking to your better half about your day. That's something I do on a daily basis when I get home. Me and my wife, we have a spot outside where we sit and we decompress.
But is that quite difficult? For your better half as well, when you get home and I don't know what your better half does, but you go, what do you do? Well, I just put out a fire. I mean, it's difficult to beat that. But she's
probably thrilled he came home alive.
Yeah. Sometimes there's only so much that I tell her. I mean, I can have one of those days where, we have a full-blown fire at the laboratory and, maybe you fall down some stairs because you're stepping over equipment. And, for me, the day is I almost got killed. But when I get home, she goes, how was your day? I go, just, a regular day. We had a couple alarms, no big deal.
Is that because you don't want to worry her or because you don't want to relive it?
That's because I don't want to worry her. I'm going to relive it anyway until the next day comes. And then, I'm back at work and then it's like, okay, that day's over.
But do you have somebody at work that you guys can be like, holy shit, we almost just died? Or is part of it, that's just part of it and it just is what it is?
We have a time where we can sit down and talk about the call. Usually the captain will call everybody together and go, hey, let's talk about the call. Mm-hmm. If it's something that, has had an effect on somebody in particular, we'll sit and talk about it.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I'm glad.
Are you from Altadena, Phil?
Yes. I grew up in Altadena. I lived in Altadena from 1976 to 1984.
Right. Okay. And I hate to say, is that family house still up, or did that go?
Excuse me?
Is the family house still standing?
Our family house is still standing. It was located right at Lincoln and Loma Alta.
Right.
So that area of houses right in that area were okay. There were houses above it that burned and houses below it that burned.
Yeah.
My grandparents had a house on Palm Avenue, which just above Fair Oaks, just above Altadena Drive. That house burned to the ground.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. What do you guys do when it's personal like that? I know I've seen a lot of stories of firefighters that they evacuated, they went and fought the fire to help other people, got home, their house was gone, and just went right back. Like, how do you do that?
It's a loss, but we probably understand it more than anybody else because we know what fire does. Fire doesn't have any favorites. It doesn't have a love lost for anyone. It will treat everyone the same, even us. And we have a reference to the fire, and we call it the dragon. The dragon doesn't care about you. The dragon wants to eat everything, and it wants to destroy everything. So sometimes we fall victim to it, and we have to keep fighting.
Is this the worst fire? I mean, I just couldn't believe the devastation of. I mean, I live on the edge of Altadena and Pasadena, and the devastation above me is just horrific. How does that affect you as a firefighter when you see it yourself, or as a human being?
This is probably the worst fire I've ever seen in my life, and it's because it's directly relatable to where I grew up, the city that I lived in, and the friends that lived in that city. I mean, I got a chance to drive through Altadena leaving work one day, and driving across Altadena Drive from Lincoln Avenue to Lake Avenue. It's probably about a good, I would say about maybe 3 miles. Completely devastated.
Yeah.
And I had friends that lived on, that route. And to be able to see their houses gone, it was incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
I mean, I've done that road as well, and I think what's kind of amazes me as well is it's absolutely shocking. It's like a bomb has hit it, and then you'll see like a house just standing completely on its own, and people go, "Oh, is it the concrete one?" No, it would be like a little wooden house or something like that. You go, well, seems to be no rhyme or reason. Was that purely the wind?
It's purely the wind, and those embers can travel. And it depends what they land on and what they don't land on. And there's no answer why, 10 houses in a row burnt up and then the next house still standing and then the next 10 houses burn up.
The dragon does what it wants.
There you go. The dragon picks and chooses what it wants to eat. And we have no say-so in why it didn't take that house.
Wow.
That's
miraculous.
There was a theory that a lot of the houses burnt from the inside out. Is that, do you hold with that the embers got inside the houses and then everything was blowing up and there was nothing you could do?
A lot of times the embers will get under the eaves, around the edges of the house, and that's usually how it starts. They get underneath it. They may get in through a crack somewhere. There's no telling.
Right.
Can we do anything to prevent that?
There's a lot of things that you can do to probably make your house maybe fire resistant ready. But as far as really preventing it, I don't know. I mean, you probably have to have sprinklers set up on the corners of your house or have some kind of deluge system where when a season like this happens, if you have to evacuate, you just hit that switch. But usually if you have a pool, you can set up something like that. I actually saw a guy on TV, I believe he was a retired firefighter. He had a system set up to where he had 2 pumps next to his pool, and he had sprinklers on top of his house.
Wow.
And
I saw that online too. That was brilliant.
And it saved his house.
So it's keeping the outside wet is part of what helps it from going up.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, you that would fire from happening before it gets started. You beat the dragon.
Wow.
That's so when you living through something like this, right? Of young you who's I'm going to switch, I'm going to be a firefighter and, save all these things. I'm projecting some things onto of what I would think if I was a firefighter. And then you get in the middle of this, how does the reality meet the expectation? When you face the big bad dragon like that, is it oh, wow, shit?
Exactly. It's a lot of, oh, wow, shit. You look at it, oh, my God. I mean, you really don't have time to do it at the time because this is what we train for. We train to fight the dragon. And a lot of times you don't see the dragon. But when he shows up, it's oh, crap, he's here. And then you go into, what you've been trained to do. You grab your gear, you put your gear on, you go fight the dragon.
It's one step at a time. You don't think about the big
You
picture
don't
of
really
it
think
all.
about it while it's happening, but then afterwards you go, "Oh, holy crap! Did you guys see that?"
Wow.
Right. Like when you're seeing all the footage of all the other stuff, right? Like of where you haven't been and like how massive it really is.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you go, "This is what I do." This is my line of work. Not only is it my line of work, this is my life's work. And when people, excuse me, when people don't understand, how something like this can happen, we sit back and we look at it. We go, "Yeah, this is normal for the dragon. It can happen at any time." We've been lucky that we haven't seen it so often when we've had high winds in our area. We have high winds almost all the time, but we don't have high winds during a fire. That's the big difference. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, as long as I've lived up in San Gabriel Valley, we have high winds every year. We have high winds, but we don't have it during a fire in the canyons where it can devastate a whole city. Well, we did
Yeah.
this time. I was in my backyard as I was watching it get torn apart by the winds, and I'm trying to take down this sail that goes over my backyard. One end comes loose and it's flapping all over the place, and I'm trying not to get hit in the head, which I'm getting hit in the head trying to take this thing down. And finally, I just leave it, and I look up toward the mountains, and from my backyard, I saw, which I thought was a telephone pole that had arced and caught on fire. So I'm sitting here looking at it going, wow, that thing's really burning. And I look at it closer and I go, that's not a telephone pole. So I grabbed my phone and I took a picture of it. And it was actually the start of the fire.
Wow.
That
Wow.
happened in Eden Canyon. I could see it from my backyard.
Yeah. I live very close as well. So I probably did, I saw something very similar. I didn't take a photo. I wish I did now. But I keep telling people who aren't in LA that if the fires hadn't happened, I think the story would have been the winds, because on my street, trees were down, they were on cars, they were on houses, and that in itself, I think, would have been an interesting story. But the
Right.
fires just eviscerated any of that, and no one was talking about the winds. And then, of course, you get all these conspiracy theories, and I always want to say, well, if you lived here, you'd know why we had a problem. It was those winds were just
Exactly.
absolutely
I mean,
extraordinary.
as many times as you have had those winds blow at your house, imagine if you had like a little bonfire in your backyard.
Yeah.
If you go blow on it, you'll see the embers light up.
Yeah.
So imagine a house being on fire and being able to blow on the whole house at the same time. Everything's going to light up.
When I finally got back into my house the next day, after we were evacuated, it was like it was literally like how to make a bonfire was on my front lawn, because all the debris and from the winds, and I was going, and I thought, oh my God, if an ember hits that, it's gone. And we were just like in clear up mode, and I just know from my fact the adrenaline just takes over and you just get the job done. Is that what you're saying it's like to be a firefighter? You just get the job done.
And that's exactly what it is, because like I said, when that call first goes out, you're already up here. Mm-hmm. So the rest of the call is about coming down here, mm-hmm. to where you remember to do this, you remember to do that, you function this way. Mm-hmm. If you stay up here, chances are you're going to be running all over the place.
Like it flips your hyper vigilance, like fight or flight switch. And then you're like, I'm on, hang on, let me calm down a little so I can think with my rational mind.
Exactly. Most people with their jobs, they start here and they go this way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We start up here already. So when we get that call, we're already pinging off the charts. And it's about us bringing it down to a level to where we can work at it. And once we get down to the bottom, call's over.
Right.
And that's just your training that helps you do that.
That's it. And that's why we are in situations where we'll be running into a building with our gear, with our hoses, and everybody else is running out and going, oh my God, it's on fire, it's on fire. We go, yeah, it's on fire. We're going inside.
Wow.
My dad, to this day, he worked 30 years in LA as a cop. He still tells me you're crazy for what you do. And looking back on it, I go, yeah, I would have been crazy to become a cop. Because that's a job I wouldn't want now.
But you are basically having to bury human instinct, I presume, to walk into the fire.
Well, yeah, nobody in their right mind is going to go in a building when it's on fire, right?
Right, that's what I mean.
Except that you know how to put it out, right? Like you know how to protect yourself and you know how to put it out.
Well, this is what I always tell people, because I got asked this question by a child a long time ago. And this child asked me, goes, why do you go into a burning building when everybody else is running out? This was a 5-year-old kid. And I looked at him and I said, if I was in a fire and I was trapped and a big firefighter came in to get me, I'd be happy to see him. I said, wouldn't you be happy to see him? He said, yeah. I said, well, that's why I do it, because I would want somebody to come in and get me. And he looked at me, he said, that makes sense. A 5-year-old kid said, that makes sense. So I keep thinking about that. I would want somebody to be crazy enough to come in and get me.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you to you and everyone who does what you do. Seriously, I would not be brave enough. And yes, I would be very happy to see someone, because I would probably be that like freaked out, frozen person of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's fire everywhere.
Yeah, but see, you don't know. If you went through the training, it might change your whole idea, because now you know what to do.
Do they have any kind of civilian training so that we're maybe not quite as dumb if like a kitchen fire breaks out, or if, God forbid, something like this ever happens again?
Sure, absolutely. Any firefighter can do training and tell you what to do in your kitchen. I can tell you what to do in your kitchen.
Tell us what to do in the kitchen.
Do you have a fire extinguisher?
I do.
Do you know how to use it?
Okay, I don't know.
There's the thing right there. Because if you're not sure on how to use it, you're going to be afraid to use it, because the first thing you're going to see is fire. You're going to go, oh my God. And we teach people in our fire extinguisher courses, don't be, oh my God. You look at the fire, you go, either I can put it out or I can't. It's only one or the other. If you feel confident you can put it out like it's just starting, you grab your fire extinguisher, you pull the pin, you aim it at the fire, you squeeze the handle, and you sweep from left to right. If it goes out, it goes out. If it doesn't, you back out, you call the fire department.
Okay, that's good to know. What about those fire blankets that are like everywhere on Instagram? I succumbed and I bought one of those too. Do the fire blankets work?
What would you use it for?
Like, I don't know, if something on my stove was on fire or something, and it just was like, I don't know, easier or quicker, or...
Are you confident that you would be able to cover the entire fire with that blanket?
I am not confident I would do anything correctly in the face of the dragon.
Okay, then don't even try to use it if you're not confident. Have somebody show you how to use it.
Okay. I am going to be visiting my local fire station and seeing if the firemen have a little downtime, if they'll show me how.
That's not downtime. That's part of our job. We are more than happy to tell you how to use something when it comes to protecting yourself or protecting your home. That's what we live for.
So that's amazing. You have courses that people can go on, general public?
Yeah. There's always information available on how to protect yourself and protect your stuff at home. I mean, you can probably Google it and find like 50 courses online. If you Google maybe firefighters teaching how to use a fire blanket, it's on there.
Wow.
I know what I'm doing later today.
I'm just writing down some of these things.
Use a fire extinguisher, because that's one of the courses that we use is on YouTube, and it's a OSHA fire extinguisher course.
Amazing.
It's 15 minutes long. It tells you how to use every extinguisher for every fire.
Here's another question about that. I feel like I would love to practice that at home, but then like, how do you clean it up? Does it ruin your stuff? Fire extinguisher goo or whatever it is?
It depends on which one you're using. If you're using a dry chemical, it's going to put that dry stuff everywhere.
Oh, there's different kinds.
I would suggest probably trying to find one that you could practice with that has water in it. Mm-hmm. They do sell them, and it's a lot easier. The only thing you really need to do is learn which extinguisher to use for which kind of fire. Make sure you have the correct one. Don't use water in the kitchen to put out a grease fire, because all you're going to do is splatter that stuff all over the place and set the whole house on fire.
I never knew there was more than one kind of fire extinguisher, so you've already taught me several things today. Thank you. Did you know that, Dave?
No, I'm learning a lot. I'm just writing the most of this down, actually.
You have to look at there's more than one type of fire. So you might have your ordinary combustibles, You might have a gas fire, you might have an oil fire, or you might have a metal that is on fire. And that's one thing I didn't know. And I'll tell you a quick story. As a kid, I was riding in my aunt's Chevy Corvair. I don't know if you're familiar with that car. It's kind of like that flat Volkswagen, not the Carmen Ghia, but the flat Volkswagen. Okay, that car has an engine that is made out of magnesium. Magnesium is a metal that burns. Okay, I see you shaking your head. her car caught on fire in the middle of the street. We all got out. I was 8 years old when this happened, and I remember it happened in Compton, California. The fire department showed up. And they saw the car, and the captain backed everybody off. All they did was contain the fire. They let the car burn to the ground. My aunt is throwing a fit. Why aren't you putting the fire out? He says, we can't put it out. She said, why not? He said, it's got a magnesium engine. Now, that stuck with me until I got older and I learned about magnesium, that it's a metal that burns. And when you put water on it, it arcs. It gets hotter. So imagine, the sparklers that people use for 4th of July?
Yeah.
That's how it burns. That's that magnesium that's on that sparkler.
Wow.
So when you put water on it, unless you got enough water to douse the whole car, it just keeps sparking.
So do you think 8-year-old you watching that happen and how the firemen handled it, is that did that stick with you? Is that really what got you to switch to being a fireman?
It stuck with me, but it was just one of those things where, man, that's kind of cool. I never knew that.
Yeah. Seriously, you have taught me so many things, even in just the last 5 minutes. I feel like we all need, they should teach in school, fire awareness.
I remember being taught about magnesium.
They really should, because a lot of times kids are the ones that when a fire breaks out, they're the ones you have to go back in and get, because they duck in a corner, they duck in the closet, they go somewhere that's safe to them. A lot of times it's not outside the house. It's somewhere in the house. So
that's instinct, is it?
Yeah, it's instinct. Because, growing up, I had a place inside the house that was a safe spot for me. And you know where it was? It was inside my parents' hi-fi system.
Wow.
I kid you not. I slid the door back, I climbed in, and I stayed there because my brother and sister used to tease me all the time. So one day I told them, I was like, I'm going to disappear, and you guys you're going to be upset. So they teased me. I climbed in there and disappeared, and they ran all through the house and couldn't find me. Well, I actually fell asleep.
Wow.
So my dad came home in the afternoon. When he came home, my mom's telling my dad, they've been teasing him again. And, she didn't really notice that I had ducked away in there. Excuse me. So my dad would go into the living room. This was his daily thing. He would go into the living room, get into his comfy chair, and he would lean back and go to sleep. Well, this was 10 feet away from the hi-fi. So I slide the door open. I get out. I close it. I climb up into his lap, and I fall asleep. And he wakes up. My mom walks in and goes, "Where was he?" And he goes, "I don't know. I woke up, and he's right here." Aww. And my mom wakes me up, and she goes, "Where were you?" I said, "In there." And my dad goes, "You can't fit in there." I said, "Yeah, I can." He goes, "Why'd you go in there?" I said, "Well, I felt safe. My Lonnie and Derek, which are my brother and sister," I said, "they were teasing me." He said, "Show me." So I walked over, opened the door, climbed in, and closed the door. And he was like, They got in trouble for that.
Yeah, that is...
It's just, it's instinct for a kid to hide where they feel safe.
Right.
But if you teach them to do one of two things, get out of the house, call the fire department.
I've got to ask you this, because I've always wanted to talk to a firefighter about this. What's it like when you're in that engine and you're going at 100 miles an hour down a normal road?
You mean when they get to blare the siren and clear traffic?
And everyone has to get out of the way.
It is sometimes very scary because people don't always move.
Right.
Some people think, well, I can beat the engine. Mm-hmm. I can go this way instead of that way. It's like, no, you need to go the way you're supposed to. And sometimes accidents happen. And we have to stay on top of, when accidents happen, it's usually something that goes out and all the firefighters know about it, and it becomes training. We have to come to an intersection.
Is that your cat imitating a siren?
My cat is literally on cue going, oh, yeah. We're talking about fire. Yeah. He really wants to get in there and say, this is my impersonation of a siren. Get out of my way. Yeah.
But exactly. I mean, we have to come to an intersection. We have to stop, even if the light's green.
Yeah.
And we got lights and sirens. We still have to make sure, is it clear?
Right, because you can't trust people to get out of the way.
There's always somebody who's got their music too loud, not paying attention. They're on their phones.
Yeah.
At the laboratory, like I said, where I work, I was going down the road, and there was a guy on his phone, had earbuds in. He's walking across the street, and he's on his phone, and I had to pull up right in front of him and lay on the horn. Because as I'm coming down the road, I'm bomb, 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 and he's not moving.
Wow.
And my captain just goes, let him have it. So I pulled right up to him and I laid on the air horn and he jumped, literally jumped, and then got on the sidewalk and we had to proceed. And I was like, that's how people get killed.
How fast can those engines go?
Not as fast as our cars, but they can get a lot of speed. But here's the thing about those engines. You got a lot of equipment on there. You got,
so it weighs it down, right?
Yeah, you got other firefighters that are relying on you to be safe too, and not to mention you got our engine. We have 750 gallons of water.
Wow,
that's 6,000 pounds. So those things don't stop on a dime.
No,
they stop on a quarter, but not a dime. they keep going.
Wow.
Have you? So is there? What is the? Have you had to put out like a rocket fire? Like, how does that differ from like a civilian fire?
Well, thankfully at JPL now they don't do any more rocket testing.
Oh, all right.
So
I'm so educated.
we don't have to do that.
Didn't you know that, Casey? Oh my God.
I hear NASA. I think rocket.
That's actually how JPL got built. Is some guys went out into the Arroyo and were testing rockets.
Wow.
And the people over at Caltech said, well, if that's what you're going to do, let's go ahead and make it a thing. So they built a facility.
Oh, that's how it works, is it? Well, if you're going to do it,
got started. Yeah.
We might as well. We can't stop them. Let's just build the jet propulsion lab then. All right.
We might as well make it safer.
I'll send you some information on that and how it got started and everything.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So what do you think 8-year-old you would think of your career now? Would he think you're living the dream?
He would think I'm awesome. he would think I'm one of the coolest people in the world because of what I do and where I get to do it at. We have a saying at work, and this is sometimes after we come off of a call, we'll get back to the station. We'll get back in our day room, sit down. Everybody's like coming down, and somebody will always say, "Best job in the world, best job in the world," and that's how we feel it is. It's the best job in the world.
I mean, you've got a twofer there, haven't you? You're a firefighter who works at NASA.
Yeah.
with the rocket scientists.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So would you say it exceeds the dream, maybe even? Or the original dream? What was it? But the original dream was just be a firefighter.
Well, like I said, my original dream was to be a homicide detective.
Yeah.
But once I got into the fire department, oh man, there's some things that happen. It's like, I didn't think it would be like this.
Like what?
Go on.
You have our attention.
Well, you come to work and, we answer the calls that happen on the laboratory. And then sometimes people look at you like, wow, here comes the fire department. It's like everybody moves back. The crowds form outside and they watch us as we get off the rig. We're putting on our turnouts. You got to put your bunker pants on, putting on the big coat, putting on your breathing apparatus, you're grabbing a helmet. You're grabbing your high-rise pack, you're grabbing an axe and a Halligan tool to open doors and stuff. And we go walking inside, and they're like, "How do you carry all that stuff?" It's like, well, we don't stop to think about it. We train with this stuff, so to us it's normal, to get out and throw on 60, 70 pounds of gear and walk into a building. Sometimes you got to walk upstairs because the elevators are out of order. You got to walk 5, 6, 7 flights of stairs. Okay, that's what we do.
Man, you guys must be super fit.
Some of us. Some of us aren't as fit as we used to be.
How do you keep that up? I was going to ask about the fitness levels.
We spend a lot of time going to the gym. I have a young crew, so they spend a lot more time going to the gym than I do. But sometimes they scrape me off the couch and go, "Come on, you come with us." And it's like, no, I don't want to go.
Do you have a gym at work? Is that how it is? Yeah.
Yes, we have a gym. In one of our buildings in the basement, there's a gym that a lot of people on lab use. And we try to get in there and use it as regularly as possible.
And what kind of workout are you doing?
I do heavy work. I'm one of the biggest guys. Well, I'm the biggest guy on my crew. So, if we have to carry heavy equipment, it's usually me that's grabbing it. I do the squats, the bench press, everything. They do more of their workouts are geared towards like maintaining their fitness. Mm-hmm. Well, I have a different level of fitness because I grew up lifting like heavy weights, lots of weight. Mm-hmm. So my workout is going to be a little different than theirs.
And do you have a trainer with you, or you know what you're doing?
I pretty much know what I'm doing.
Right.
So you're trying to basically like simulate things you might have to do on the job so that you're prepared for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So your guns are for real, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. oh yeah.
Yeah. These aren't just for show.
You're the one that's scooping us up off the floor when we're lying petrified in our home.
Yeah. And we're going.
Well, yeah. We all do that, but staying in shape to being able to lift somebody on a gurney, for instance. Even though our gurney is, it's all automated now. Mm-hmm. We hit a button, it'll lower down. We hit a button, it'll pick up. Mm-hmm. There's a button to put it inside the ambulance, but you still have to manipulate it. So there's still a level of fitness that we have to try to maintain.
Have you had any injuries at work?
I have. I had a high ankle sprain at one time that took me out of work for about a month.
Right.
Ouch. I was going to, when you say the gurney thing, has technology changed what the job is like over the course of your career?
Exceptionally well, yes. It has. Just the gurney itself. I mean, it used to be manual where you would have to hit a button and drop it down or pick it up. And not having to pick it up, you get somebody on the gurney that's, excess of 200, 300 pounds. That could put quite a demand on you. So when you just have to hit a button and it raises up by itself, it's like, well, yeah, that's 300 pounds. I didn't have to lift.
Your back says, thank you.
Every single time,
Wow, I could talk to you for hours, but I know we're already eating up a lot of your time, so I think we have to get to our regular questions, right?
I'm loving the conversation.
Thank you so much.
It's been amazing, thank you. But what we need to know now is the important stuff. Like, what would you do if you won the lottery?
I would move to Italy with my wife.
Oh, okay.
We've been there 2 times, and it's one of our favorite places.
Which part of Italy do you like in particular?
Tuscany.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, we actually spent a week in Tuscany last time we were there.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to, I was able to propose to her in Pisa.
Oh, so. You let into that one. There you go.
So actually, that begs a question. Is there an age where like you have to retire or you can work as long as you want to work? I
can pretty much work as long as my body will let me. Right now, it's kind of saying, hey, can we talk about something? I'm like, no, we're not talking yet. It's like, okay.
We all have that conversation. My super important question is, what is your, I feel like I have 2 questions maybe. What is your go-to food that might be a comfort food? And I kind of want to know, like, if you're on like a 3-day shift, what are you doing to sustain you? And then what is your like, it's a calm week. It's just a regular day thing.
Man. Probably go-to food would probably be pasta. Because those carbs are going to keep us going and keep us regulated.
Italy will be good for you then.
Everyday thing. Like I said, I got a young crew. And if a chicken walks through the department, it's not going to make it to the other side. These guys will have chicken 5 days a week. And I asked them, what are you making? Chicken. Okay.
Like 1 per person?
Almost. These guys have no problem cooking chicken.
Oh, yeah, because you have to rotate who cooks also, right? Is that true?
Yeah.
That one of the... And does everybody have like a special dish they make?
It's kind of with the younger guys, whatever they can do with chicken. They're always making something with chicken. I try to mix it up. I try to make like, I might do like swordfish one night or do like pasta another night, or I might even do, a barbecue tray. They want chicken all the time. Like
Wow.
they're going to, teriyaki chicken. They're going to put it on skewers. They're going to bake it. They're going to roast it in a pan with some potatoes and stuff. And it's like,
And
okay, whatever
you're
you guys
offering
want to do.
swordfish, and they just go for the wow. What can you do? The youth of today, Phil. Okay, I want to know, what is your favorite animal and why?
Probably the lion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because nobody messes with it.
Oh, okay.
He does exactly what he wants to do when he wants to do it. And the only time he really gets riled is when you're really bothering him or you're bothering his female. That's it. Other than that, he doesn't want to be bothered. Kids climb all over him. He's like, okay, whatever.
All right. And the final question, Philip, if we really knew you, what would we know about you?
You would probably be amazed at the other things that I do away from firefighting.
Oh.
What do you do? What are your hobbies?
How much time you got left?
We got time.
I ride. I do cycling. I do training as far as boxing training.
Oh, good man. I do that.
Let's see. I make journals. I make my own journals.
What do you mean? Like you bind the paper?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Fold the paper, sew it in, bind it, make the outside, everything.
I like that.
I'm deeply into cigars, which you can't see my humidor. It's not lit up, but my humidor is about 6 feet tall.
Wow. So do you think you feel like the hobbies and stuff help balance out what you do?
Yeah, because when I'm away from work, I want to be completely away from work. I don't want to be thinking about, the call that we had the other day where, somebody might have decided that their body wanted to do something else, or, the fire that we had to put out that was just too close. I want to be completely detached. So I find a lot of things to do away from work.
It sounds like you have really good work-life balance and you're living your dream and you have a good home life. I feel like you're just winning all around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, the best part of my day is when I get home. I have a dog that's about this big. Her name is Tuka. That's right.
Small dog. He was gesturing small, like shoulder width, everybody.
That's Tuka. I don't know.
Let's see.
Oh,
Yeah. That's a cute little dog.
yeah.
That's the kind of dog you can't say no to.
Yeah. Tuka is half whippet, half, what's that other little dog? Little tiny dog.
Chihuahua. There you go.
I don't know if you could hear her. She just started barking. When I come home to Tuka and my wife, Aisha, that's the best part because I sit down and she goes, how was your day? And my grandmother used to tell me all the time, give your wife the first 10 minutes of your day when you get home. No matter how bad it was, there are days when I've come home, I go inside, I grab a glass and a bottle. I come out, put the bottle down. She goes, one of those? And I'm, yeah.
Oh.
But I give her the first 10 minutes and after that, we're good.
You are delightful and amazing. I'm so thankful you gave us the time to chat with us. And again, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you to all the other firefighters and policemen and brave humans out there who do a million things I would never be brave or smart enough to do.
You'd be surprised. I bet you would. I bet you would.
I wouldn't give me that much credit, but thank you.
So, Casey, you and me go back to telling jokes. Phil, just keep putting the fires out for us. Thank you.
but I'm going to take one of those fire courses because I would imagine too, if layman, civilian, whatever, if we knew more about that stuff, it might make life easier on you guys that you wouldn't have as many of like the smaller calls.
It definitely would, and that's probably something that that maybe we should look into also, is trying to get more information out there where people feel more comfortable about taking care of their stuff at home, so they don't feel like, what am I going to do if this happens? What if this is what you do?
Yeah. Well, everybody, take that away from this episode. Let's all go research and take a class so we can empower ourselves.
Phil, thank you. This has been amazing. Really
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Love to
Thank
talk.
you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody,
Bye.
for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Quick shout out to Mike Nicholas for being our tech savior and Carmen Sclafani, also known as Wiser Time. Thanks for our music. And thank you all for listening.